final 3 chapters of Jujutsu Kaisen stirred up a bit of controversy when they were released. After the already hit or miss final battle given by the Shinjuku Showdown, it's not hard to see why this would be the case. It's a final battle that had half the fan base saying that it was an arc of ass pulls and or poor story writing, versus the other half that will argue that it made perfect sense because of XYZ examples, and the same rhetoric has extended to the ending of the story. Since the ending came about, I've shared the same type of opinions for both sides of the conversation, so this time I'm going to try and look at it all over again from a more objective outlook. I'll be breaking down this topic chapter by chapter to gauge an opinion of the ending. I'll be analyzing these 3 chapters and breaking them down into how they serve as a finale for this story and try to answer this question. So naturally, let's begin with chapter 269. Opening this chapter is a continuation from the outburst heard by Yuji, Nobara, and Megumi at the end of 268. Maki berating Yuta for not bringing Miguel and Laru sooner makes for a funny bit and serves as the perfect thesis statement for what this chapter would be. It's an all-around digestion of the conflict and the different routes it could have taken to meet a better ending. Every character crucial to the conflict makes an appearance and says something relatively important except for Momo. However, this conversation doesn't really say much, as it's just stating a whole bunch of things the audience knew or probably suspected. The central argument on Maki's part is that the plan could have gone better had Miguel and Laru showed up earlier, which, albeit true, is completely countered by the fact that Yuta didn't even know if they were going to show up in the first place. It's a null point and feels a bit out of character for her to push the issue, because I don't think she's this unreasonable to begin with. Instead, it would have been better for her to have scolded him for nearly dying using Gojo's body to show the more intimate side of their relationship. Although it is cute for her to pick on Yuta, it could have been used for something actually worth picking on him for, like, again, the Gojo body swap. Furthermore, Todo using his infinite IQ to explain why Maki's argument doesn't matter fits his character, but also potentially serves as a self-insert for Akutami to shut down any of the reader's suspicions regarding the way the story went. The other half of this chapter gives a lore dump of the Simple Domain secrecy, which is completely last minute, and at this point it's just cool to have it here in the story rather than not. Side note, the statement of simple domains being invaluable to people without curse techniques is such a no-brainer that it makes me wonder why it was even brought up. The whole Simple Domain lore dump also makes me wonder what other things the 3 big families are hiding, but it will never be answered, so it just leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. This chapter shoots for a recap of Shinjuku Showdown while highlighting the problems with any other paths, making the story feel set in stone before it was even written. Although I understand the reason for the recap and going over the aftermath is somewhat important to make the story make sense, it shouldn't have been one of the last 3 chapters. Overall, it's an unremarkable chapter that tries to squeeze in as many counterpoints against the audience and adds lore about something that should have appeared hundreds of chapters ago. Chapter 270 is an update on what's happened with everyone after the Shinjuku Showdown. The crucial points of Tengen's barrier and the reincarnated sorcerer see a severe lack of attention, getting relatively brief coverage. Needless to say, this is where the whole rush aspect of this entire ending shows itself, and I'm not a fan. Tengen's barrier and the reincarnated players could have easily gotten a few chapters or so in and of themselves. The problems surrounding Tengen's barrier could have led into more lore and interaction with the Gojo and Kamo families, and an explanation of how Tengen absorbed Sukuna's vestiges from Megumi. Jujutsu Tech could have been going around Tokyo to hunt down any rogue players that want to live beyond the Culling Games, using this to show how strong Nobara and Megumi are at the end of the story, with Yuji handling the more problematic players with his domain expansion if need be. Whether or not these are good suggestions isn't the point. The point is expanding the concepts that shouldn't have been given a page or 3 of conversation to resolve. There's a lot of potential that isn't explored, leaving the readers in the story with questions to be answered or things that would have been benefited from being fleshed out or shown. Chapter 271 jumps off from the ending of the previous, with Yuji, Nobara, and Megumi going on a job together hunting for a curse user. It's a return to form for the story from the earlier days, except this time there's no special grade curse, just someone holding a grudge. Things returning to normal after the climactic fight with Sukuna makes sense, and seeing the main trio back in action is definitely satisfying. The meat of this chapter comes from Sukuna's conversation with Mahito and his desire to change in his next life as a curse, which shows that maybe the words from Yuji on his deathbed made a genuine change in his character. The loss he suffered had more of an influence, considering he says he did lose after all though. This interaction does show that Sukuna made a decision to go north and to change his path for a new experience and to transform. Whether this means he turns into a good person or someone maybe slightly less egotistical is unknown, but his desire to change gave him another chance. Sukuna's reincarnation was bound to happen as he was a curse, so he would come back regardless. There's no telling when he did come back though, and that ambiguous part is a fearful prospect because again, there is no telling if he's changed changed or not. That uncertainty is something I will definitely give JJK a compliment for, because the cycle of curses wasn't meant to end. The one woman who wanted to end it died, and Yuji's promise to Mahito may just be upheld. It's a final panel that doesn't inspire hope, but tells you that the cycle of curses will continue. Honestly, I will praise this final aspect of the ending, because it keeps constant that the story was never about ending the existence of curses, but how you use those curses in the world. Whether you use it for good, evil, selfish ambitions, or to protect others, that's what matters. Which leads to the point of Gojo handing over the reins to Yuji, who could perfect his dream. Yuji's defeat of Sukuna cemented that thought, so Yuji will continue to use his curse energy, curse technique, body, mind, and soul to combat the evil that exists in this world. That message is clear, and a strong point of this story is theme of succession and the faith in the world to come. On the other side of the coin, though, stands an ending that doesn't wholly complement the rest of the story, I think. There feels like a few missing elements that make this ending service only the final arc's actions, not the story as a whole. While an argument can be made that the ending should only concern the final arc, I don't think that is the case. Overall, I would definitely have to take a step back and reread this story to express my opinion in better detail, but for now, I would call this ending one that is simply mediocre. It fulfills the basics of an ending, and the ending I thought would happen with Nobara, Megumi, and Yuji coming back together. It's an ending that doesn't challenge me in any way or give me an immense sense of satisfaction either. It's just okay. This won't be my last video regarding Jujutsu Kaisen, as I'm planning a 3-part retrospective next year for the series. I hope I see you all there for that massive deep dive into Jujutsu Kaisen, but in the meantime, I want to thank you all so much for watching. Please stay safe out there and have yourselves a damn good one. I'll see you all next time.